Hey guys, welcome. My name is Rajan Patel and I'm one of the MPS consultants here at Duke. In this video, I'll be giving you a brief description of the differences between Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. My main objective of this demonstration is to help you decide when is best to use Photoshop over Illustrator and vice versa. Alright, so to begin, let's start with Adobe Photoshop. To many people, Photoshop is considered the best software available for all photo editing. Being that it is a raster graphics application, it directly interacts with pixels. And since photos are essentially a matrix of pixels, this means that Photoshop is great for modifying already existing images. The thing about pixel images is as you zoom in, you can see each individual pixel. As you can see, now they're looking like boxes. If I go even further in, each individual box is one pixel, and each pixel defines one single color. However, if you're looking at it from further away, these colors somewhat summate together to make your given image. And that's how raster images work, or pixel-based images. Anyways, moving on, many get the idea that this program is the one-stop shop for anything related to image editing. Although for some, it may be fine to just use Photoshop for all their editing tasks, it is advisable to use Photoshop with caution. As I mentioned, Photoshop works directly with pixels. As I am sure many of you are aware of, pixel images have the possibility to become pixelated. Or in other words, pixel images lose quality as their sizes are changed. So let me show you what I mean by that. So here I have the MPS logo. As you can see, the logo itself and the whole image is pretty tiny, and you might be asking me, hey, why don't you zoom in, or why don't you make it larger? I can barely read that. The thing is that some images, as you try to increase the size, you can notice huge differences in quality. And this is no different. If I try to go ahead and zoom in, already you can tell that these edges are very pixelated. And if I try zooming in even further, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until the point where you can actually see the individual pixels. This is because of the fact that the image itself, the primary image, did not consist of many pixels, right? So if you try to increase the size of a matrix of pixels that was already a small dimension, you're going to have horrible quality very quickly. However, if you try to increase the size of an image with a high quality or a high number of pixels, it'll take longer for the quality to start showing deterioration. It will be deteriorating in quality, but it'll be harder to see visually. Right. So, anyways, I was showing you this to give an idea of the point of pixelation. And I'm not showing you this to hate against the way Photoshop works, but rather to understand why Photoshop isn't always the best tool for editing. In all, one should use Photoshop when they aren't afraid of pixelation, or rather, when they have no choice. What does that mean? Well, if you wish to edit a photo in particular, which is already a function of pixels, you have no choice but to risk pixelation. The only way to try to avoid pixelation is by taking a higher quality photo, or by using a higher quality photo, correct? So if you already are starting to edit a very low quality photo, you're going to have a risk of pixelation. But if you use a very high quality photo, it'll be less likely that when you increase the size, you'll see noticeable difference in image quality. As a quick recap, Photoshop is a raster graphics, or sometimes called a bitmap graphics, application that has many great tools for editing photographs. Given that Photoshop works directly with pixels, it is best to use it only when you are positive pixelation will not be an issue, or when you are using pixel-based images. Unlike Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator is a vector graphics program. This means that Illustrator does not work with pixels. Instead, it uses mathematical equations to create desirable objects. As you may have already guessed, the upside of using Illustrator is that when using vector-based objects, pixelation will never occur. This is because everything about Illustrator is mathematical and based on computer algorithms. For example, if I were to draw a line, just like so, what's happening is that the computer is taking the 2 points, the start point and the end point, and using, slope equation to fill a line between the two. It's all mathematical. If you compare this to Photoshop, what's happening in Photoshop if I were to create a line is that I'd be filling in pixels that are adjacent to create the visual of a line, right? So this is more of a mathematical approach, where that was more a visual approach. And what this means is that if I wanted, I could not only drag around this, which you can also do in Photoshop provided you do it on another layer, but in addition, I can expand it, make it a bigger line, or if I wanted, I could even change the stroke and do whatever else I want, because all of these are a variable of an equation, which can be, changed individually. So stroke is a variable, opacity, everything is a variable that can be changed independently. And that is what's very beautiful about Illustrator. And the reason why you would ever want to use this is because Illustrator is perfect for anything and everything abstract, right? Whereas you might want to use Photoshop predominantly for editing photos, Illustrator is great for editing abstract art or possibly logos. It is great to use Adobe Illustrator for logos because oftentimes when you want to use a logo, you need it to be able to have many different dimensions. Or in other words, you might want to create one logo, have it at a certain size for your website, and then create it at another size for an email or for, what have you. If you were to use Photoshop and create the logo, you would only have it at one given size or one given pixel dimension, right? And so if you wanted to expand it to a certain point, it will now be pixelated, and that's not good. But with vector-based images, you can create one logo, save it on Adobe Illustrator, and then whenever you want to change the size, you just change the size of the vector and import it as an image if that's what you need for, your website or what have you. And there you go. You have no pixelation because everything is abstract and everything is mathematical. As a recap, use Illustrator when you wish to do multimedia work unrelated to pixel images. In specific, definitely use Illustrator when creating logos or anything else abstract that you may like to have in many different sizes. Even if you want to eventually add a logo to a photo, it is best to create the logo in Illustrator and then import it into Photoshop to add on top of your image. Because this way, you can have it in case you ever need it again for a future project. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys learned something new. Thank you, and have a good day.